gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's October the 30th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com. Joined once again this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. Presented today by GameTime.co, your headquarters for all your ticket purchases for Miami Hurricanes games, Miami Dolphins games, Miami Heat, Florida Panthers, and any theater or sporting event around the United States. GameTime.co will get you in the door at the lowest price guaranteed. And we'll talk a little bit more about Game Time later. But first, Matt, we got a little bit to talk about what we saw this weekend. Another wild and crazy Miami Hurricanes adventure, this time against Virginia at Hard Rock Stadium. And another overtime game. Kind of shocking that we've had back-to-back overtime games. But I'm going to put a silver lining on this, Matt, because they're winning the overtime games, which is a lot better than what was going on here a year ago when they were losing all of these games. And, it's kind of like a mystery because you watch this team, you watch this program as closely as we do, and it's absolutely very clear that massive progress has been made. But we're watching the games, we're doing analysis after the games, and the more we probe, the more we look, it's not showing up as transparently in terms of the actual games and what happens within them. And I just find the whole thing very strange.
I mean, I felt like my sandwich order for the sandwich I bought to the game was more complicated than the offense we saw. And I mean, the sandwich order it was complicated. It was, pickles, banana peppers, olives, lettuce, tomato, onions, mayo. Got it toasted on a homemade baguette at the Flyby over in the Grove. So it was a complicated order, but I just felt, the route trees that Shannon Dawson, he's not Shannon Awesome anymore. He's Shannon Dawson again. Not very complicated. It didn't seem like, apparently, to Virginia. They didn't seem to really struggle with any of it. And, Virginia barely ever blitzed and barely ever got pressure. There was zero quarterback pressures noted by Pro Football Focus, 0 sacks allowed. Yet somehow Tyler Van Dyke struggled tremendously. And it's somewhat mind-boggling that Dawson wasn't able to find a way to wiggle guys free. I mean, there was clearly open players in the flat constantly. For him to not point that out to Tyler Van Dyke is a little...
I don't understand. That's what I don't understand. All right, so Virginia's taken away the middle of the field, no argument. Somebody's got to be seeing that. Now, I'm assuming they are. And at that point, all Shannon Dawson has to say to Tyler is, listen, they're giving us whatever we want out on the perimeter. Start taking the checkdowns to the flats, and let's wear them out with our backs and tight ends catching the football. And that should loosen things up as the game goes forward because they will have to adjust to that. And we might have to take 10 yards at a time. We're not going to get the home runs, but they're easy plays and they're there. And that's all that had to happen on Saturday at Hard Rock. And it never did. And, listen, I mean, everyone's on Tyler Van Dyke. I think you have to have a little bit of perspective. I'm not making excuses for him. I'm not apologizing for the way he's playing. But there is also a reality to Tyler Van Dyke's life and Tyler Van Dyke's situation. And this is the second year in a row that he's dealing with injuries. Right now, he's dealing with multiple injuries. They're clearly impacting him physically and maybe even more than physically impacting him mentally. He's not getting his legs behind his throws. That's why he's underthrowing footballs down the field and getting intercepted. He's not seeing the field particularly well for whatever reason. Whether it's preparation during the week, whether it's film room work that he has to do, which he mentioned in his post-game press conference, we don't have that answer. But it's not happening in a positive way for him right now. And I would imagine he's very frustrated. I would imagine he feels like he's letting his teammates and people down. I would think he's frustrated that this NFL future that was foreseen for himself and his agents, quite honestly, over the last 2 years is not materializing the way they planned. He had to come back this year. Now he's probably going to have to come back next year. It's, the whole thing all put together is probably creating the physical and mental mess, Matt, that we are seeing. And obviously that is impacting the games. And he didn't play against Clemson and they had a close overtime game. So he didn't factor into that one. But Saturday against Virginia, the way he was playing very clearly factored into the fact that Miami's only got to 29 in that game, and that was in overtime, 23 points in regulation, and the yardage totals, passing wise, were not up to snuff. I think it was 163 yards. I mean, this is a guy that throws for 300, 400 yards on a regular basis throughout his career. So we sent you into the lab yesterday, and I said, Matt, lock yourself in. I want you to go in there and I want you to study, in particular, the interceptions that Tyler Van Dyke has had the last 3 games he's played. 7 of them, to be exact. Should have been 8. 1 was dropped yesterday. It was an easy interception. And this is a guy that his first year had 6 interceptions and last year had 5. So he has more interceptions in his last 3 games, almost than those 2 seasons combined, if you count the one that was dropped. I mean, so something is off and astray. And Matt, I was counting on you to find it for us. Tell us what you found.
Well, before I get to that, just because you said some things. So, I mean, first of all, you said he throws for 300, 400 yards on a regular basis. The whole thing with Tyler, the reason fans are upset with Tyler, which apparently has gone over your head, just like so many of Tyler's passes, is because they're starting to realize it's not the system. It's Tyler. He's inconsistent. Last year, like you say, he's hurt. You're not making excuses, but he's hurt. Last year, he wasn't hurt until game 6, I think it was, against Duke. And he was inconsistent. He averaged over 300 passing yards. But if you look at him, this year, even before this last game, if you look at him this year versus last year in a Josh Gaddis system that was awful, his production's pretty darn similar. As a matter of fact, he's throwing for less yards prior to even the Virginia game than he averaged last year before he got hurt. The funny thing is, like, people like to do these big picture things, right? Where they say, wow, Miami's offense was 95th last year in total offense, and now we're 29th or 19th or whatever it is. Well, Miami's offense was awful after Tyler went out because the 2 quarterbacks that replaced him, we found out, and I argued we needed to find it out, couldn't complete a pass. That affects your offensive numbers when you can't run the ball. This year's offense is fantastic running the ball. There's no doubt that this offense is tremendously better running the ball. That's what they're hanging their hats on. But Tyler Van Dyke passing the ball with the same group of receivers, it's the same result. It seemed a lot better earlier in the year, and people will post, wow, look at last year, how they were so bad in receiving, and now look how amazing the receivers are. If you extrapolate the receivers' number, I mean, Xavier Restrepo played 1 game last year and had 100 yards. That's 1,200 yards if he stayed healthy. Colby Young didn't play the first 2 games because he didn't know the offense. Tyler Van Dyke, the next 3.5 games, he would have had a 900-yard season, more than he's on pace for this year, before Tyler got hurt. Jacoby George didn't play last year much, but Will Mallory, who was the third option, so Jacoby George and Colby Young, the second, third option, when Will Mallory was with Tyler Van Dyke, Will Mallory would have had 700 receiving yards in the year if they had kept the same pace and if Tyler never got hurt and they were at that pace. Like, that's better production for the top 3 guys last year in that awful offense than the top 3 guys this year in an air raid that everyone was so excited about. So that's why fans are frustrated, because maybe they didn't crunch the numbers like that, but they have eyes. Most of them, not Gary Ferman, most fans have eyes. And like, they see it. They see there's an inconsistency. And when you talk about, I don't want to pile on Tyler, because certainly you can build in excuses for him. It's certainly not all on him. I think Shannon.
It's not even excuses. It's reality.
Well, I mean, he is
beaten up. He's beaten up.
Shannon, beaten up. He has the best pass protection in the country, but whatever. I think Shannon.
I don't know. He hurt. Well, the 3 fingers he hurt was not a sack. I mean, he hit those on a helmet. tore
but
ligaments in 3
he seemed
fingers.
like those didn't really affect him that much. I mean, if you could throw for 400
leg,
yards, 300 yards, 400 yards, whatever it was.
He's not even close. Come on. I mean, it's got to be affecting him. I mean, the Tyler that we saw Saturday was not even close to the Tyler we saw 2 years ago. Like,
so you want to go back to 2 years ago? Rhett Lashley had a fantastic offensive system with really great, receiver route trees and a system that was fantastic. And that's not what Shannon Dawson has. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, it's just not, And I don't know if that's because Mario Cristobal is sort of forcing his hand to run the ball and to simplify things or whatever, but it is not the same as what we saw when Rhett Lashley was here. I think a lot of it's the system, and Tyler needs the right system. Tyler needs to know what the defense is doing every play, or he gets very confused. A couple of the clips you'll see in today's story, he sort of hesitates, like he's pounding the ball a couple of times and doing this a couple of times before he throws it. Like he's not quite sure what he's seeing, and he just throws it anyway. And he studies like crazy. And he said after the game, I need to study more. He studies like crazy. It's that he wasn't prepared based on what he saw, and then nobody's telling him during games apparently, here's what you do when you see this, because when he starts a game poorly, it's not like all of a sudden he lights it up when he figures it out. He never figures it out. It's time and time again. When Miami plays the Middle Tennessees and the Georgia Techs of the world and these teams that do something different than what he saw on tape, he never seems to figure it out, and it's very frustrating for fans to watch that. So anyway, with that said, you asked about the interceptions that we looked at. And so he's thrown 7 interceptions the last 3 games. We looked at all 7, and all 7 of them he was never pressured. Usually you see interceptions, 7 interceptions, you look at them, 2 or 3, you're going to see someone in the quarterback's face. He's getting flushed out. He's got some sort of pressure. 0 people even near him. And he's just launching the ball into coverage. He doesn't understand what he's seeing. A linebacker drops and picks off a ball. He doesn't see the safety coming over, picks off a ball. He underthrows a pass on the left side. Just makes bad decisions, And one play, it might have been one of the 7. I think might have been Jacoby George's fault, where Jacoby went to the sideline and the ball was to the inside. I don't know. I think I remember maybe Dawson saying that one of the interceptions wasn't on Tyler. Maybe that was it. But you can't have, when you see Miami's ranked 19th in total offense and whatever they are in defense, which is good too, 30th or whatever. The reason they're in tight games and losing games is because of turnovers. These are interceptions. Like Tyler could throw for 400 yards. If he throws 4 interceptions, that's not a good game. Turnovers dictate when you're an average team who's going to win the game.
And that's why his Pro Football Focus grades are good, because he's getting yards, he's getting completions.
If
he's having a lot of good plays, but the bad plays are just single plays. Pro Football Focus grades every single play. So that's why he could still throw interceptions and have decent grades.
Right. If you throw 40 passes and 36 of them, you do the right thing, and the 4 are interceptions, Pro Football Focus is going to give you a 90 grade, which is elite. It's very deceptive because they only go from -2 to +2 for every single play. There's no -10 for interception in Pro Football Focus. The worst grade you can get is -2. Best grade you can get is +2. So when you have 36 +2s and 4 -2s, you're still grading out at a very elite level. But anyway, there are a lot of problems. Now, with that said, if you're looking for the silver lining, Miami, when Emory Williams was the quarterback late in the game, they felt they had no choice but to run it. It was obvious. Tyler Van Dyke, I don't know if fans remember this, but at the end of regulation, Miami had the ball down 3 points, and the prior week they would go just to the run. Run, and just hope you have a 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3, 3rd and manageable, and convert and keep going, because they had plenty of time on the clock. They wound up throwing the ball 7 of 8 plays and getting a field goal. So they certainly have trust in Tyler, but then it gets to overtime, and all of a sudden it's 12 personnel, and they're running every time, And it's almost like 2 different coordinators calling plays. Like, it was so different from the end of regulation that worked, moving the ball 50 yards in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, to all of a sudden in overtime, they're packing it in and saying, we're just going to bully you now,
Well, of all the things you've said,
it was almost like Shannon Dawson's headset got turned off by somebody whose name rhymes with Harry O. Missed a Ball, and Harry O. Missed a Ball was calling the plays in overtime.
But of all the negative things that you've said in the last 10 minutes, That's actually the most positive because
That's what I just said.
if you
I said that's a silver lining. Hello.
Yeah, if you can't predict what Shannon Dawson's calling, that's a positive. That's a good thing.
That's
and the run plays in overtime
do.
certainly worked very, very well. So I'm going to call that a positive. But the passing game is not clicking the way it needs to. No, you can't run the ball every play over the course of a game. Teams will start stacking the box and taking that away from you too. You got to be able to do both, run and pass. Miami runs about a 50-50 offense, which is good. And they just need to execute better. Now, Matt was talking about the system, and the Rhett Lashley system that Tyler thrived in 2 years ago was obviously different than the Josh Gaddis system of a year ago, the Shannon Dawson system of this year. And, I'm kind of surprised because Shannon Dawson's put up some big numbers last year at Houston, and I expected him to come in here with this high-flying offense with all kinds of, well-designed plays that are creating explosive moments in games, and it just is not happening now. So the next question becomes, why is it not happening? And obviously Tyler Van Dyke's travails have something to do with that, Matt. But I don't think that this is a situation where coaches can just sit back and say our quarterback's playing like crap. I think Shannon Dawson's got to own some of this. I think that, he's got to take a look at the way he's coaching Tyler, the way he's game planning, and more than anything, maybe the way he is communicating on game day. Is Tyler getting enough coaching on the field to make adjustments on the fly during games that would allow him to be more successful? And I think they got to look at all this stuff. This is not as simple as, send Tyler to mothballs and start Emory Williams right now. If Tyler's struggling to read the defenses that Virginia's throwing out there, what do you think would happen to Emory Williams, who's never seen them before and has never, who has very limited experience? You got to remember when he started against Clemson didn't really game plan for that the whole week, really. It was maybe Tyler's going to play, maybe he's not going to play. Emory had a very small sample size on tape. So there's a lot of different circumstances. If you have to say to Emory Williams, okay, you're our quarterback now for the next 4 games. Oh, geez, 3 of them are on the road. Oh, geez, we got to go to Florida State in a week. No, I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, there's no guarantees, Matt. I'm pretty sure Mario Cristobal is going to stay with Tyler. They're going to try to coach him better.
Yeah, and let me ask something. I remember, I think it was at the beginning of the year, didn't Shannon Dawson tell us that he was going to coach from the sideline? I'm pretty sure he told us that, right? And I said, I bet he doesn't stay on the sideline for very long. I think he would get a much better view up in the booth of what's actually going on. And his whole point was, I need to look at Tyler in the face, and I need to know what my quarterbacks are thinking, and I can see in their eyes, I've looked in Tyler's eyes. There's nothing to see. Go up in the booth. You'll get a better view of the field, and maybe you can figure some things out, because what he's doing is not working. Something needs to be different. Like Rhett Lashley, not his bread and butter, but like one of the tools in his arsenal that was so amazing were wheel routes for running backs. You remember? I remember Jalen Knighton running for 60-yard touchdowns, beating linebackers up the sideline on deep passes. Like, he needs to be innovative. And right now, it's just the same thing over and over for every team. Like, I told you yesterday, I was so impressed, and I am so impressed with Lance Guidry. Coming into the year, and I'm fine admitting when I'm wrong. Coming into the year, I was more concerned with Lance Guidry than with Shannon Dawson, mainly because I thought the Miami offense was going to be a lot better talent-wise than the defense, and I think it still is. But Lance Guidry has done more with an average group, and with Gary saying that Cam Kinchins is one of the worst players in the nation, than I've ever seen.
That is not what I said. You stop feeding red meat to these people. That is not what I said.
I know. You said he's just one of the worst, not the worst.
No, I said he's not an all-American level player.
It's the same thing.
He's a good player, but he has directly led to 4 losses in the last 2 seasons. Okay.
Right. Anyway,
with coverage busts that led to the winning scores.
Well, let's focus on the games he's won.
That's a fact. He was 0 for 6 in coverage on Saturday when he was
you're not counting the interception return for touchdown that basically helped Miami win the game. That's not a win.
I'm going to say, and he had an interception for a touchdown.
He's won 1 million games for Miami the last 2 years. Anyway,
that's what I said. He's a good player, but he's not an all-American level player.
Well, I was getting sidetracked just to annoy you. what I was trying to say is Lance.
No,
Guidry,
you're trying to get your legion of fans out there behind you. I know what you're doing. You're pushing buttons.
I met a fan at the game. Well, I wouldn't call him a fan. I would call him an abusive Miami wearing.
I hope he abused
lunatic.
You deserve every bit of it.
And I don't know if he'd been drinking or whatever, but he comes running up to me and he says, "Oh, I watch you every morning." And he's one of these guys, these people that like to hit you as they're talking to you, they just smack you. And I was just getting beaten. I was getting
smack you.
I was more injured than Tyler Van Dyke.
Square right in the face. I hope he did.
Within 1 minute, I was more injured than Tyler Van Dyke. I'm telling you, very nice guy. If you see me again,
because you're here this morning and you're pushing buttons. But you know what I say and what I think. You're pushing buttons.
Anyway, so listen, Lance Guidry, and I know the defense. Defense didn't do great in the game. They did fine. And someone was saying, "Oh, they have so many more sacks than last year. They're averaging 3.5 sacks a game. Last year, they averaged 3.1. For those math whizzes out there, that's 0.4 more sacks a game, which is not even a sack, not even half a sack a game more. But what he does is so multiple, and he can literally. He went to a 3-3 stack in a matter of a week, and they went back to his normal, his normal fronts where he just will drop and the issue that Gary's having with Cam, and I agree, is Cam winds up in coverage one-on-one way too often. Like Cam is so good playing safety, he studies film like nobody else. He knows where the play is going by the formation, and you're sticking him one-on-one with a slot receiver where he can't do what he does best. Like, to me, that's a disservice. But in general, Lance Guidry does a great job of confusing offenses. He's not putting his own personnel in the best positions they can be in. Jaden Wayne or whoever shouldn't be covering receivers, things like that. Jafari Harvey is going into coverage way too often, things like that. But the way he does things, even though he's putting his own players maybe not in the best situation personnel-wise versus personnel-wise, is doing enough where he's wreaking havoc, essentially, on the quarterback quite a bit and confusing the quarterback quite a bit. And I've been thoroughly impressed by what he's done regardless of some of these personnel mismatches that he winds up with, because the other team isn't taking advantage of them very often. And then you come back to Shannon Dawson and you say, well, look what Lance Guidry is doing, all this innovation and changing his entire scheme in 1 week because he was missing a defensive end and he didn't have enough defensive ends. So he put a defensive tackle, essentially defensive end, Jared Harrison Hunt in that 3-3 stack. And then you look at Shannon Dawson, like, what's he done? The offense looks the same every week. They're not doing anything different. They're saying, this is what we do. You try and stop us. What I like is, that's a pretty good defense. How are we going to beat it? Let's change this. Let's change that. And Shannon Dawson insists that they put in new packages for every team. And, maybe they do, but it's very nuanced. It's nothing where we can sit in the press box, having covered football for 20, 30 years, and say, oh, that's new. It looks the same. It might be a different formation running the same play, but it looked different at the front, the front end like that. He considers that a big change, but I would just like to see some different types of personnel usage. Throws to the tight end have disappeared. Throws to the running backs, other than really dinky dunk stuff. That's third option, third read. Other than that, there's no primary reads to the running backs. There's no primary reads to the tight ends. As you look at those 7 interceptions, a couple of them, he's just looking at Restrepo and then just throws the ball, to somebody else because Restrepo is covered. When other teams take away Restrepo with help over the top, over the middle of the field, because everyone's figured out now that Shannon Dawson likes to throw in the middle, right? That's where his offense always went at Houston. That's where the offense is going at Miami, 60, 70% of the time, with the run and the pass, even more than that. When you look at the run also, they're taking away the middle. And when the middle's gone, Tyler's really, really struggling. And I think it's too late for Shannon Dawson to fix it. Now, the good news is, the defense.
How does this keep happening, Matt?
Look, they're playing BC, Louisville, NC State. NC State's good against the run, bad against the pass. They're going to be able to throw for yards those 3 games. There's only 4 games left. So I don't know that he's going to be really exposed in terms of defenses that really can shut him down, because there is enough talent on offense to make plays. Because defenses are going to stop the run. That's their primary objective right now. Miami can run. Miami's a great offensive line, stop the run, force Tyler Van Dyke to throw the ball. So he should throw for 250, 300 yards a game in those 3 or 4 remaining games. FSU is a pretty good defense. That'll be tough. They're good on the back end. But
how are we sitting here talking about the offensive coordinator again? Like how is this an annual? I don't understand, okay? Because it started out really good. Like the offense they ran against Texas A&M was really
Correct.
interesting and good.
Remember, it's once one team figures out how to stop your offense, every team's going to start doing the same thing, and you have to adjust and change your offense.
He
seems like he hasn't.
Not throwing to the tight ends at all. Throwing to the backs hardly at all. You play Virginia on Saturday. Virginia outgained Miami 377 to 277.
By the way, all Virginia did, by the way, is do exactly what Georgia Tech did. They only blitzed, I think, 5 times the whole game. They rushed 4, and by the way, their defense line's terrible, Virginia. They can't get sacks. I mean, I think they had 7 sacks going to the game as a team. They got no pressure, but they said, we'll just drop back in coverage because Tyler doesn't know what to do. And it worked, and that's sad. Like that said, they said, we'll give you all the time in the world to throw. You guys do whatever you want. We're just going to drop into zone with our linebackers, go man to man on the outside, and you try to do whatever you want. And like Miami had no answer for that. And until they have an answer for that, like Shannon Dawson has to have a plan because every team's going to keep doing the same thing now. And if he doesn't have a plan, and if Tyler Van Dyke doesn't understand the plan and can't execute the plan, like these next 4 games, they might go 2-2 or 1-3. That wouldn't be shocking at all if the offense doesn't really start to produce in the passing game to help the running game.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not like act like everything's like awesome on defense all the time either. Virginia had some good drives in that game, and like I said, they had 377 yards of offense, which on face value is kind of average for the football game. But they were hitting on a lot of plays. That one receiver, number 4, his last name was Williams. He ended up with.
I thought it was Washington, but whatever.
Washington. I'm sorry. I know I said Williams, didn't I? Washington had 12 catches for 152 yards. Okay, and like now, Lance Guidry might say we were giving them that. He might. Sometimes he will give teams yardage for the sake of the big picture. But there were times that guy wasn't even covered. There were a couple times that Cam was manned up on him and didn't even like seem to make an attempt to cover him. Like it was just really, really, really weird. Okay, so your Mario Cristobal,
that's my word. Don't be stealing my words. I say weird.
You Mario Cristobal, you wake up Sunday morning and listen, you won the game, yeah, great, but you have a little bit of a crisis on your hands because you got things you got to fix. Okay, and now you got an issue with your offense in general, which means you as the head coach may have to start dictating a little bit to Shannon Dawson, which might, who knows how that goes over. And plus, the fans are a separate contingent that, is very vocal about these types of things. And, things go bad against Virginia. And now suddenly you got a little bit of a crisis, brewing behind the scenes. Tyler's playing like garbage. A lot of things that you have to deal with here going into game 9 of the season that you would prefer that you wouldn't have to deal with. And it's going to be interesting going up to NC State, a team that's playing seems to be playing some of its best football of the year, right, Matt? I mean, this is not going to be a walkover in the park in Raleigh this weekend coming up. And then, of course, you got to go to Florida State. So sense of urgency. After doing the analysis that you did, what's the solution?
Well, you asked me these questions. I can never comment on what you said. So you said that they have a crisis on their hands and that Mario has to fix things. I haven't done a DNR. At least I haven't done a actually named DNR. I do a DNR every day in my own life, which is, for those of you that haven't heard a DNR from me in a while, it's not do not resuscitate. It's Matt's daily negative rant. And in this particular case, you say they have a crisis on their hands. Like the players don't seem to think so, because after the game was over, for those that were at the game, I mean, Jacoby George took off his helmet and flung it 10 yards in the air. They rushed the field like they just won the Super Bowl. They were jumping up and down, celebrating like a championship Miami team, a team that has any sense of where it should be playing level-wise against a team that came in 2-5. You're not celebrating that. You're just walking off the field knowing you have a lot of work to do. That's not a game you're rushing to the middle of the field, screaming and ranting and raving and running around celebrating with your teammates because you won the game. Like, that's ridiculous, And I thought it was embarrassing, quite frankly. I was watching it from the press box, and I thought it was embarrassing the way that they reacted after beating a really pretty bad Virginia team at home, barely, and like, oh my gosh, we won the Super Bowl. Like that's what it looked like. And as a matter of fact, I turned to somebody, was it you? And I said, they won the Super Bowl. I actually said that in the press box because it blew my mind how they reacted.
You acted like a fool. Yes, I'm glad you're admitting it.
I mean, I was an athlete.
You were jumping up and down in the press box. We won the Super Bowl. We won the Super Bowl.
Listen, I played baseball in high school and college, and like if you barely beat a really bad team, we didn't like pile onto the pitcher when the last out came. Like that's ridiculous. They piled onto the pitcher after a college team beat a high school team in a JV contest. Like that's what it was. Okay. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. And on TV, thankfully, I don't know if they showed that much of it. I didn't watch the TV copy, but hopefully they didn't, you know.
Too much of you jumping up and down?
I think Miami fans would be sick to their stomach if they saw the way the players reacted, like with sheer exuberance at barely escaping from mighty Virginia. So I don't think that the players realize they have a crisis on their hands. You know, the reaction to that game that would be more, to me, meaningful from the players' perspective would be walk off the field. Walk off the field, arms around each other, patting each other on the back, you know, and walk off the freaking field. Because celebrating in that manner makes it just seem like they had achieved some major victory. Like that's what that celebration meant. It meant we have achieved a major victory. I get it after Clemson. I get it. I do not get it after Virginia because they celebrated just as hard after Virginia as they did after Clemson. That makes no sense to me. So good luck to Mario convincing his players that they have a crisis on their hands after winning 2 games in overtime, one against a bad team and one against a Clemson team that honestly is not very good either. You know, you really want Miami players to act like they lost both those games because they could have. And I have a feeling if they had lost both games, they'd be working a lot harder this week than having won both those games. And it's sad for me to say that, but like that's what I feel like after watching that celebration because it was ridiculous. DNR over.
All right. But all that said, yes, they struggled. Yes, Tyler
played
want
the answer for me. The answer I already told you.
All those things said, you know, Tyler, the team celebration, you acting like an absolute fool in the press box, all those things, okay? All those things said, what now, man? What now? This is game 9 coming up on Saturday.
Right. Well, listen, Miami is what Miami is. All you want is to keep getting better. You know, keep working, keep getting better. It's not a championship roster. We already know that. You need to see progress. You need to see guys getting more opportunities to make plays that are especially young guys like Ray is getting some more opportunities now in special teams. Hopefully Riley Williams gets some more chances to catch balls. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing Emery a little bit more. You know, I mean, I think he has to be able to compete next spring for the starting job. And if he's only played 1 game this year against Clemson and was really reined in, I'm not sure that does him a disservice or not.
I don't know what the plan is with him, but he has played in 4 games.
Yeah, I know.
So
Mario already said there's no such thing.
I know, but what he said is great. But if you're coming down to the last game or so, and you can get him a red shirt year, I think you got to take it. If Tyler Van Dyke's going to start,
and look, Tyler is still better. I'm not saying bench Tyler. Tyler's the best quarterback on the team, and I understand they still have an outside chance for an ACC title if they beat Florida State. I get it. But if they lose to Florida, if they lose the 3rd game in the conference, you know, I'm not against letting Emery loose for the second half of a game or even the first half of a game and just let him get his feet wet because I really do want to see a quarterback competition next spring between Emery Williams and Tyler Van Dyke. I have no choice but to return because Miami does need better, consistent play at quarterback. Tyler can be amazing in some games. And then like we talked about, when he's confused by a certain type of defense, he's really average to pretty bad. And Miami cannot afford to do that. You can't lose 2 or 3 games every year because your quarterback can't figure out a defense. And whether it's on Tyler or not, like at some point you have to move on from that. This is his 3rd year, okay? 3rd year playing, 4th year at the program. He's still struggling to figure out certain defenses. If it happens again over these last 4 games of the year, like it might be time to move on to Emery in the spring, and they have to give him some chances to really sense, just like last year when I said play Jake, play Jakari. We need to see what they have. And thank God Miami did, because neither of those guys could play, you know? And if they didn't know that, they might have gone into the spring thinking that, you know, Jake Garcia is still on the team. He's going to be the next starter, or Jakari Brown's going to be the next starter. Like, they needed to know that. So now Emery has his chance. And, like, I want Emery to get more of a chance because I actually liked what I saw from him against Clemson.
Yeah, I did too. But I also like the idea of him getting a red shirt year because it keeps his flexibilities open as he goes forward in his career. If Tyler Van Dyke's going to be the starter these last 4 games, I personally would like to see Emory Williams get his red shirt, but I
don't disagree. Yeah. All I'll say is in this era of NIL and transfers, it doesn't matter as much if Emory plays this year and then he has 2 years as a starter, or if Tyler's back and Emory winds up redshirting next year. All you do is you have a bigger sales pitch to a top quarterback recruit or to a transfer. I mean, it's just a year earlier than you otherwise would do that. That's all. And if Emory's that good, he's going to be gone after year 3 anyway, right? So he'll have started a year or 2 and he'll be gone.
Maybe not.
If he's that good, if he's an NFL guy, a first rounder, he'll be gone. So like, if he's a 3rd rounder, do we need him? If he's a 4th rounder, do we need him back for his 4th year, 5th year? I don't have a problem with him not redshirting.
I don't know, man. I don't know where it's going. I don't know what the answer is. But I do understand and feel the frustration of everybody, because you got the head coach who hired a new coordinator to turn around the offense and thought it would get turned around. They committed to Tyler Van Dyke. The collective gave him a nice NIL deal. And he's having a 2nd straight year now of injuries and different circumstances. And he's not playing like the elite quarterback that he wants to be and that everybody thinks he could be. And now everything's up in the air because of it.
Again, what's crazy is Miami's 19th in the country in total offense. And in scoring offense, they're 20th, which is amazing. And why Gary's saying that, because I don't want people to bash on Gary. Oh, what are you talking about? They're top 20 in all the categories that matter on offense. Why it's the disconnect, again, is the interceptions, the mistakes on offense, the fumbles, the inconsistency. And people were bashing the Josh Gaddis offense last year. When Tyler Van Dyke was in the Josh Gaddis offense, it was ranked just as highly nationally. Tyler was thrown for over 300 yards a game on average before his injury. And they couldn't. Yes, they could not run.
That's what I'm saying. You went from Gaddis to Dawson, but you're not getting a huge net.
But the running game, and that's not because of Shannon Dawson, by the way. The running game is, people should be crediting Mario Cristobal, because this offensive line he's put together is something we haven't seen since what did you say, Brandon Linder and
Feliciano and those guys
were on that offensive line. It's been a while, and it's great to see, because that's how you build an offense. Just like you build a defense from the front back, you build an offense the same way. And you got to start with the offensive line. So kudos to Mario for putting that offensive line together. They are outstanding. The running backs are outstanding. I posted on the message board last night. I said I have no problem with Mark Fletcher starting. Someone says Mark Fletcher should be starting, and someone else like, no. I think he's the best, most talented running back on the roster. And if you watch those last 3 runs he made, the first one was designed up the middle. He did that, 9 yards. The second one's designed up the middle. He immediately sees there's, and he's a true freshman. Okay, the play is designed for him to run up the middle. He immediately gets the ball and immediately plants his left foot and darts to the right, because there's no hole in the middle. It gains 5 yards. The next play, and Gary and I argued about this for about an hour yesterday over whether it was actually designed as a sweep, or I believe it was designed to go between the right tackle and the right guard, notwithstanding, because Javion Cohen was pulling it and it looked like he started to turn up before, like right on the shoulder of Cam McCormick, but then went outside. Anyway, regardless of that, Mark Fletcher stretched it all the way out to the boundary and then made a play on his own. Like, he forced a 6th-year senior to miss a tackle. He forced another, I think it was a linebacker, to miss a tackle. And then at the 3-yard line, with this huge defensive lineman running full speed at him to knock him out of bounds, and he's on the sideline, Mark Fletcher somehow puts his head down, thrusts his body into the defensive lineman. They both negate each other's physical. I guess, Mark Fletcher must be a physics major, because they negated each other's momentum. I don't know what the word is. They were traveling 9.8 meters per second, 9.8 meters per second. Bam, that just negates itself, and they stand still. And then Javion Cohen threw Mark Fletcher into the end zone like a Frisbee. And who else on this team makes that play? I challenge you to look at the last 3 plays, and we'll post it at some point. But I challenge anybody to look at those last 3 plays and tell me anyone else on that roster that makes those 3 plays. I don't think a single player on this roster does, and that's why Mark Fletcher's my starter.
All right, so we've got tons of coverage. If you didn't get it all from the game, it's still on the website. We've got the analysis this morning on Tyler Van Dyke's interceptions and the origin of them and why they're happening. And then you guys can put it all together and go on the message boards and post your opinions. Curious to see what you guys think. How do they solve this problem?
By the way, Gary, did you even grasp when I said 9.8 meters per second what that is, or that just like went over your head?
It went over my head. I honestly, I don't get.
Do you care what it is?
I don't get caught up in the details of what you say. Quite frankly, it's just a bunch of noise to me. But go ahead. You want to explain it again?
Yeah, it's gravitational velocity. If you drop an apple or whatever, it drops at 9.8 meters per second, assuming it's normal gravity, Earth's gravity. Earth's gravity.
Physics are at play.
Yeah. All right, but anyway, you must have really done well in your physics class.
I'm not worried about physics right now. I want to hear what the fans think. I want to hear what you guys think about what is going on. And I want to hear a little bit more sophisticated responses than maybe like, oh, just bench Tyler and send him packing and be done with him for the rest of his career. What can they do to get this train back on the rails here for this stretch run of 4 games, which is not going to be easy. I mean, at NC State, like I said, they're playing well. Obviously, at Florida State, it's going to be a monster game. They're going to be undefeated in the top 5. Got a chance to derail their dream season that they got going on. And then Louisville's playing phenomenal football. I mean, really good football. That game is suddenly a great home game. I mean, I hope people realize how good that game is going to be and how challenging it's going to be. And then you got to finish the year going to play at Boston College, which has never been a good thing for Miami. These after Thanksgiving games in Boston. I don't know why the ACC keeps scheduling them. It would be okay if Miami played Boston College at any other time other than Thanksgiving weekend, ACC office. I just want you to know it would be okay. But that has not worked out for Miami quite often, playing after Thanksgiving for whatever reason. And, Boston College is playing decent football right now. So none of those games is going to be easy. So they have some work to do. And, I'd love to see what you guys think on the message boards are the solutions. And we'll be later today, we'll be talking to Mario Cristobal quite a bit about this stuff. We'll be talking to Shannon Dawson and Lance Guidry, and we will have that coverage for you on the website in the afternoon hours. So make sure you check that out. All right, a couple more things we're going to mention, but first I want to talk to you guys about GameTime.co and the GameTime app, which is your solution for all your ticket needs for any major sporting event you might want to go to. And let me tell you how Game Time got started. Its founder was trying to go to a Major League Baseball game up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and he went online to try to buy tickets. He finally found something. Then he had to print them. He had problems printing them. He barely made it to the game. Said to himself, "This is ridiculous. I have to do something about this." And very soon thereafter, he created GameTime.co. And basically, just to tell you guys about some of the benefits of Game Time. Phenomenal for last minute tickets. They have flash deals. They have zone deals. They're very easy to find. You get a visual on your screen that shows your view of your seats directly from that seat location that you're purchasing. And you get a lowest price guarantee. So if you find seats in the same row, same section, and they're cheaper than what you buy through Game Time, they will give you 110% guarantee on that purchase. And so go into your app store, download the Game Time app, or go to GameTime.co. You search for your tickets. If you use the code CANES, CANES, when you make your first purchase, they will give you $20 off your first order. How about that? $20. No questions asked. $20 off your first ticket order. And you can get tickets, like I said, for Hurricane games, Dolphin games, any sporting event, any theater event, any concert in the United States. Game Time has you covered. So go to GameTime.co, not .com. It's GameTime.co. Download the Game Time app and try them out one day when you want to go to an event, no matter where you live. And I think you'll be happy. I don't think you'll be sorry. GameTime.co gets it done for event goers everywhere. So check them out. Okay. So a couple more things that are on the website today. Basketball is in full gear, getting ready for the start of their season. They had an exhibition game Sunday that wasn't even worth talking about. They won by like 50 points. It wasn't a competitive game, but today we have a CaneSport TV feature. I sat down with Nigel Pack, and very interesting interview. I think you guys will really like it. Make sure you check that out on the website. We also have several recruiting stories coming your way. We got a story on a target from Columbus, Ohio, Thomas Worthington. He is a defense. I'm sorry. Thomas Worthington is the name of the high school that three-star defensive lineman Francis Brew goes to. We've got a story on him. It's been about a month since Miami offered him. He's a 6'3", 265-pound defensive lineman. He has been committed to Pittsburgh since March, but Miami has been recruiting him. We update you on where things stand there. We also have a story on 2025 edge Corey Adams from New Orleans, Louisiana, Edna Carr. He knew that an offer was possibly going to come his way when he started communicating with Miami coaches around the middle of last month. But his head coach calls him in the other day and tells him that the Canes have pulled the trigger on an offer. You can check out what he's saying now. We also catch up with Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Southern University Lab School, three-star safety Dylan Day, who is a longtime Miami commit now, and he updates us on how his season's going, his thoughts on the Canes, and his status. And we'll have more coming your way, too, as we recap a lot of the recruiting that was done over the weekend. So that's the table setter for this week. Thank you guys so much for starting out your day with us. Don't be too distressed about the way things have been for the Hurricanes. Every one of these games is its own creature, its own beast. And just because Miami struggled a little bit against Virginia doesn't mean they have to struggle against NC State. They got to get in their own lab, just like we locked Matt in the closet. They got to lock themselves in the closet, and they got to go to work and figure out why they're struggling and get those things fixed before they get on the plane Friday to go to Raleigh. And like I said, we will have a lot of coverage on all of that today as we talk to both coordinators and Mario. If you are on YouTube right now and you like the show on our channel, hit your subscribe and like buttons. It helps us with the algorithms. If you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please become one. Go to CaneSport, join our community of fans, and allow us to do what we do every day to try to enhance your fan experience. We hope you will not be sorry. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you once again, everybody, and we will see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.